name is Jill Kelly. I am the North American CEO for Assembly, the media operations within Stagwell. I am just thrilled to welcome Patty Morris. Thank you, Patty, for spending day one here with us in Cannes and at Sport Beach.
Yes, so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting us.
No, of course, of course. Patty, I want to start with a question that I think a lot of customers have regarding brand authenticity, especially in a landscape where inauthenticity is detected, called out, and sometimes canceled as well. How do you think about State Farm in the context of brand authenticity? How important is it to you, and how do you transmit that?
Yes, that's a great question. We live by 3 rules at State Farm. The first is stay true to your brand. Know who you are, stick to your plan, don't try to play from anyone else's playbook, use your playbook, and be true to your brand. You also have to keep your finger on the pulse of what's next. So by doing that, it allows you to sort of set the right conditions to be able to take the opportunity to maximize cultural moments. So staying true to your brand, keeping your finger on the pulse of what's next, and then third, and probably most important, is making a real connection with consumers. And to us, that means, especially in sports, it means how do you add value to that equation? How do you add value to the viewership or to the fan experience versus detracting from it as an advertiser?
Right. I love what you said, Patty, about brand and sports. So we are here at Stagwell Sport Beach, where brands, sports, and culture kind of collide and collaborate. State Farm has been very progressive in the way that it has really been partnering, not necessarily sponsorships alone, which can sometimes be more passive, but real relationship building, real investment when it comes to sports, but in particular, women's sports.
Yeah.
And you talked earlier about how you kind of detect culture, but also drive culture. And I think female sports has become such a big part of the cultural movement, not only in the United States, but globally as well.
That's true.
Can you talk a little bit about why is State Farm so invested in this movement? And why is it important? Why is it important to State Farm?
Yeah, I mean, we're invested in women's sports because it's smart business, first of all. And we're not new to that game. We've been investing in women's sports for 2 decades, last 20 years. What's been really great is just the explosive growth that's happened in the last couple of years. It's been just fun to see as a female athlete and a sports fan myself, but also as a brand. There's so many new opportunities for growth with new leagues coming on and like Overtime Select and Unrivaled. So there's just a lot of new opportunities for brands to get involved. And then second, it's the right thing to do. These women are incredible athletes. They're at the top of their game, ultimate professionals, and they have terrific stories and backstories to their journey, and people need to see that. So we do put a big investment behind that, and we have for a long time to sort of power that, but we're really interested in also empowering it at State Farm.
You said you were an athlete.
Yeah.
So there's
not a very good one.
No, it's okay. Statistics say that 80% of women in a C-suite role was in some sort of sport, whether it's recreationally or competitively. What was your sport?
Basketball.
Basketball.
Yes,
okay,
basketball.
Okay, that makes sense.
I played basketball in college. Like I said, not very well. But I will always value that experience growing up and in college because it taught me so much about life. It taught me so much about how to be a good teammate and discipline and all the things, the tools you need as an adult and in professional life. Just really invaluable experience in teaching there through sport. So
I was a gymnast.
Amazing.
But I got too tall.
Oh.
So by the time I hit
Jill, you're not that tall.
13, I know. But competitive gymnasts are like south of 5 feet. 5 feet.
Yeah.
So, but honestly, Patty, that's just me being lazy in terms of I just didn't want to continue to do it anymore when I went into high school. Let's talk about student athletes. We touched on just so briefly, we're going to be on the 4-year anniversary of Name, Image, and Likeness. It was introduced, I believe, in July of 2021.
Yeah.
State Farm has been very forward-leaning. You signed on Caitlin Clark. You signed on Juju Watkins. Tell me about that experience. Tell me about why that is so important, because there's also controversy as well around name, image, and likeness. Can you talk a little bit about that, Patty?
Yeah, I mean, I said a minute ago, we're talking about you got to keep your finger on the pulse of what's next, and I think there's been a pretty significant cultural shift in sports, especially with younger generations who are really following these athletes versus following teams, right? So that's important. And we look at that and say, okay, how do we partner with the right athletes, and how do we bring the right athletes onto our roster at State Farm so that we can connect with consumers, we can help them build their brand and their story, and by way of that, be relevant to the consumers we're trying to reach. So you see us have a wide swath, right? You mentioned Juju and Caitlin, which are our first NIL deals. And then we go all the way to veterans like Chris Paul in the NBA or Patrick Mahomes in the NFL. And we look at that wide group and that roster, and you'll notice one thing about all of them. They're at the top of their game, right? They're the best in college. They're the best in the NFL. They're the best in the NBA. We're really careful about that. As the #1 insurance company, we want to be matched with the #1 athletes. So that's a really important criteria. But probably even more important than that, honestly, is that our DNA matches. And what I mean by that is we have a shared value system around community and community building and helping others and being a light in the sport and being a leader. So the combination of those things for us is really working together with those athletes in partnerships. And I think you mentioned this. We don't really do that short term, right?
Yes.
We go into a relationship with these athletes. It's not a transactional relationship, it's a real relationship. And we work together to build that over time. And see, like with Chris Paul, it's been over a decade we've been together with him. And so much storytelling and so much really just, not just rich advertising and marketing, but we have done a ton of community work with his family foundation and building computer labs. So it's very important that our DNA matches. We make sure that the association is, at the top of your game, and then we build that as a real relationship where we can create impact together. And that is a recipe for success.
You talked earlier, we started so we'll end the conversation at how we started, which is about authenticity. And State Farm has been invested in sports for over 20 years.
Yes.
That level of commitment to your principles and to your values is clearly expressing itself. It's evolving,
yes,
right? But it is a commitment that State Farm has made. And what is that saying? If you don't like these principles, I have another set over here. Clearly, that is total opposite of State Farm in the principled relationship building that you're making with these athletes. And thank you for really kind of. It was an underserved market, and State Farm and many brands who are investing in sports and women in sports has really lifted all of our game.
That's right. It lifts all boats.
That's right.
So thank you so much for having me today. I love being here, and just thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.